Don't try this dangerous stunt at home. It's harmful to watch this countdown. Yes, you're the Autarch of Flame, but who are you? All I know from this is that you like shitty games where the main character talks about babies a lot. Nice font choice. Not like that's been used more times than countable. Well, clearly this must be video art. Mr. High Class Autarch is rocking those dramatic cuts.
In this video, I present two top 5 lists that, though different, are related.
Because I never would have guessed the connection from reading that ridiculously long title.
Top 5 games I like that everyone hates. Let's face it, as gamers, we all have our opinions about what games deserve a bit more love, and the games we want people to shut up about.
Shut up about? Oh, you just painted a giant red target on yourself, and you probably don't even realize it.
That's perfectly fine. Just remember that with these opinions, I'm not trying to criticize any of you personally, so I ask that you try to be as civil as possible.
Just, shut up about the ones I don't like.
I present the top 5 games I hate that everyone likes.
Hooray. I feel your pain, Spartan. I don't want to be here either.
Final Fantasy III. Nope, not that Final Fantasy III.
Ain't we clever?
Loves. Though oddly enough, it was the last Japan-only Final Fantasy to see an American release in a remake. When it was finally remade on the DS and released in America, critics loved it. In my case, however...
Oh, pick me! You want to make sweet love to it too!
And I can safely say I enjoyed each one other
than 6? Oh, no, I was wrong. You really had me going with that monotone there, Autarch of Flame.
Final Fantasy III's gameplay is essentially the same as the first games. There may be more job classes this time around, but it's the same kind of fare with your swordsmen, mages, thieves, and what have you. You can change classes...
Wait, then what the hell is a geomancer? Looks like there's quite a lot more than your sword swingers and spellcasters.
For that by weakening your stats briefly when you switch. This is especially bad when going to face Garuda, a boss battle which pretty...
And lo and behold, a dragoon using a unique skill. I'd derail your argument here, but looks like you did that for me.
What the hell kind of gameplay mechanic is that? Why the hell is there a Noctowl right beside me?
I am so sorry, viewers. Those were the most awkward seconds of my life, too. Dreadful acting and what I can only guess is some kind of inside joke. I'm the Lord of the Underworld, and right now I'm sounding more human.
It goes something like this. A village is in trouble. You go to the villain's lair. You kill the villain. The amount of times this formula repeats until something plot-relevant happens is irritating, to say the least.
Oh, then you're going to love Skyward Sword.
I won't get into the NES version since the characters were just job templates like the first game. But in the DS version, however, they created 4 distinguishable party members that suck. All of them have boring character traits and none of them develop.
I wanted them to remake Final Fantasy VI.
I think about it, the worst villain in Final Fantasy history has to be the villain from 3, Xande. You can tell he's lame from the get-go because all we know from build-up is that he's a sorcerer.
Okay, to the game's credit, there's also some mortality bullcrap in there. This villain is pretty bad, but the least you could do is be more thorough with your bashing.
He was, in fact, a cliched sorcerer, who monologues no less.
So, we went from Chaos and the 4 Fiends.
What's so fab about them?
Who conquered heaven and hell, to a f***ing wizard.
I wish that every teacher spoke like this. They'd be easier to understand, and those facial expressions alone would make every class a riot.
And that final dungeon can go get sent to hell and be ripped into table scraps by Cerberus for all I care.
Excuse me, does big bad Mr. Autarch of Flame think that he's the Lord of the Underworld? Please.
3D redefined many of gaming's greatest genres. Final Fantasy VII revolutionized the RPG with its then groundbreaking graphics.
Also, something materia system.
Super Mario 64 was the first 3D platformer.
No, it wasn't.
Genre, Devil May Cry's violent, bloody combat would become a staple in games like No More Heroes or God of War. However, to me, revolution does not mean perfection.
Neither does making 2 top 5 lists with Pokemon sprites and awkward skits.
Devil May Cry. While the concept is awesome, about a guy whose day job is devil hunting, I just can't get into the gameplay. To me, gameplay and control trumps story in a game. These are video games, and so if I can't enjoy playing them, then the games have failed their purpose.
By that logic, Metroid Other M is a shining example of a video game.
It doesn't seem nearly as gratifying as it did in No More Heroes or Mad World.
Blood! Devil May Cry needs more blood!
Devil May Cry's famously stylish...
These black bars. We saw you zoom earlier. Was this just not worth being presentable to your
don't
viewers?
really serve much purpose other than to get in your way, harm you, and give you points.
Isn't that kind of the point of enemies in video games? Especially hack and slash?
Forever. In addition, the game's awkward...
Your voice is physically draining me, and we're only a fifth through this video.
...is a constant source of game overs. Speaking of Resident Evil, it's fair to note that this game has a deep atmosphere and excellent graphics for its time. However, for a game that was supposed to be the original Resident Evil 4, this game really is not scary at all.
Boy, it's called camp. Look it up. You're making a fine piece of camp right here without even trying.
I want something scary.
Well, say hello to Bob.
Hello to Bob. Just because you get your obscure references doesn't mean everyone else will. I almost feel like I need to tell you that if you can't see someone, they can still see you.
Now don't they?
In terms of the game's music, the battle music in this game sounds almost exactly the same for both the enemy and boss battles.
I also hate Super Mario Bros. Music. It's all the same bleeps and bloops.
What I mean by that is Dante controls very stiffly in this game and can easily get killed by certain enemies.
Given your dubious level of wisdom about this game, I'm not inclined to think that some of those deaths you speak of are entirely the game's fault.
Badass that can survive swords getting stuck in him. Speaking of cutscenes, this game's dialogue and acting are cheesy as all hell.
Do I even need to comment?
The most enjoyable part of the game to me. Especially this little gem.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light!
Oh, speak for yourself. Your own voice cracked just a second ago. Especially this little gem.
But I like smaller aspects of it. However, in my eyes, it isn't enough. It may have brought about more 3D beat-em-ups, improved sequels with the exception of 2, and one of the most unpleasable fan bases...
If you could just see the new DMC's writing, you'd be eating those words. Oh, and trust me kiddies, I'll get to that train wreck later.
Everyone's favorite RPG maker, Square, was at its prime during the mid-90s.
You know, it might just be me, but I think he likes Final Fantasy VI a whole lot.
Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, and Secret of Mana. I'd played the ports of Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger and loved them.
It's Secret of Mana.
I wanted to give Secret of Mana a spin while it was on Virtual Console.
It's Secret of Mana.
And I...
Oh, hey look, it's Secret of Mana.
...hated it.
And now, a pointless cameo.
Josh, what's up?
That's exactly what happened to me before I started to hate Secret of Mana, you plagiarist!
Well...
Okay, get this. This video where Joshua here talks about Secret of Mana, it was deleted a long time ago. What a clever reference.
Seriously. That's exactly what happened to me when I first played Secret of Mana.
Wow. That is really bizarre. Add hatred of Secret of Mana to the list of things...
We get it. Mr. Autark has clout. Get to the point.
Oh yeah, you trash your copy of Okami yet?
Nope.
A while ago, I had an appearance in one of Joshy here's videos to riff on a terrible review, and now I'm riffing on a terrible video that Josh had an appearance in. That would sound so poetic if it wasn't a complete coincidence.
Yeah. My first indication that I was going to hate this game was when I watched the intro.
I have the Beatles' White Album. I never listened to it. Its cover was bland.
Which is used to create an ultimate weapon. This angers the gods, who attempt and fail to destroy the Mana Fortress.
Worst exposition ever!
The Mana Sword comes in and smashes the fortress.
Why is this shot at an angle?
Smashing a fortress. How does one smash a fortress with a sword?
Technically, some swords have a hard, flat edge. Even then, this is a game with a floating fortress. Why are you getting your badly acted jimmies rustled over a sword?
The gameplay bores me too. Fighting enemies and bosses can be irritating, especially when some of their attacks cheaply home in on you, while often you have to use precise physical strikes.
This is of course neglecting the minor detail that you can also use homing skills. Did you even play this game?
Without people into teaming up for this kind of crap, it loses meaning. And if you decide to go alone, you'll go through the whole tedious game until you reach the Mana Tree, where the boy finds out that the Mana Tree is his mother!
A watermark. No, you didn't care. He's officially a robot. Anyone else would have to try to laugh that forced. What is your serial number?
I know it was played straight. I know we were supposed to take it seriously, but you don't think that sounds at the very least weird?
Sure, so is your delivery.
Music in this game is very hit or miss for me. While songs like Fear of the Heavens are beautiful, Danger reminds me of the melodious sounds of a blaring siren rather than a good boss theme.
You can't deny that it would be the greatest siren ever, though. My underworld forces would love to hear that every time Pretty Palutena attacks. I can see the headlines. Autarka Flame crowned National Air Punching Champion.
Held up at all. It might have been good back then, but even then it got one-upped later by Final Fantasy.
Why are you still playing this music if you hate it so much? You're a living contradiction, you know.
It's not for me. Number 2 is an entire series.
It's Call of Duty.
Now, while I don't find all the games in this series are bad, I find the vast majority of them are mediocre at best. Coupled with how often these games are shelled out,
It's Call of Duty.
to hate what these games represent in gaming culture. This
Is the Call of Duty. What? Mega Man? Like or dislike it, to play my own advocate, this series has had loads of good impact on gaming culture. Rock bands, comedians, artists, me cracking wise in a terrible internet video.
various Mega Man and Mega Man X games, and though I admit I haven't played all of them, almost all of the ones I've played were basically the same game over and over with no innovation between the games.
Wall jumping, armor upgrades, more emphasis on plot, more character development. That's four there, Mr. Game Designer.
Mega Man 1 to 2 was huge, though after 2, the games almost entirely fell under the same formula.
As the games went on, there was greater emphasis on making the weapons more balanced. No, apparently not a worthy change to mention.
This has only been averted once. The abilities and Robot Masters even got tired after a while, with abilities being constantly reused, especially shield weapons, and supposedly new things like 6's rush adapters came across as more gimmicks.
Apparently he was too stupid to realize the definition of gimmick was a click away.
It's hardly innovated at all. Though the first game was fantastic, everything after that just got worse to the point of being bad.
How did they slowly get
While I
worse?
admit I'm
The
not a
repeating
fan of the
formula
games
can't have killed
themselves,
the
save for Mega
gameplay.
Man's 9 and X, and even that's mainly due to the gameplay not being my thing. Why I hate this series is because of what they represent to me. It represents to me that game companies don't have to care about whether a game is up to standard or original.
So the developers didn't care when they made that contest where original fan designs would be included in Mega Man 6.
Small amount of development time given between one Mega Man game and the next, this doesn't often leave much time to truly innovate, leaving subsequent games to go stale. And when something goes stale, it will inevitably become worse.
And this just in, Pit might be a bit of a moron.
Such deterioration. Mega Man X5 was intended to be the last Mega Man X game by series creator Keiji Inafune. It ended up with the apparently final deaths of Zero and Sigma. However, Capcom decided to make another...
Lovely choice of loud rock music for such a softly spoken bit of script. There are these things called takes. You can make more than one.
Which somehow led to 2 more sequels due to its success. The end result of X7 and X8 can be summed up as such.
Oh, Artak, you're so unironic.
Overall, I do not care about the Mega Man games.
Wait, you only showed Mega Man X7. What if X8 was actually decent?
I merely just shrug off. Number 1, however...
Ooh, this game must be terrible. You know, because some kid says so.
The Legend of Zelda series is fantastic.
Get a thesaurus.
I look for gameplay over story in video games. These games 9 times out of 10 have gameplay and control that are flawless in almost every aspect. And even then the stories are pretty damn good, if formulaic. However, this does leave the other 1 out of 10.
I'm in so much suspense. Just how long can he draw this out?
Zelda.
Oh, we're doing this, are we?
Who are you?
You're going to do it again!
You're going to ass hump what?
Please.
Ocarina of Time! You're so Ocarina of Time again, just like you did in Top 15 Greatest Final Battles!
Oh, wonderful. We've gone from obscure references to past videos, to an obscure reference to a deleted video, to an obscure reference to YouTube commenters.
You so
Why?
You were...
Hey, look!
You ruined my childhood!
Subtitles, motherfucker! You need them!
Oh. So you went and you destroyed mine, you...
So, what was that at the start of this video about asking people to remain civil? Because if this representation of fandom is civil, you need a dictionary thrown at your skull. And preferably a concussion.
Final battles list by calling Ocarina of Time outdated. Aside from the story, which is at times a bit thin, in hindsight the game is pretty damn flawless. I owe my earlier anger towards the game to the fact
You make top 10 lists for the internet. Not everyone knows your work. Make your video and stick to it without referencing YouTube comments.
Ocarina of Time on the 3DS, it had sublime control, as I'm sure the N64 version did, and I was engrossed in the game. Again, if I can't play the game, then I won't be entertained
Look,
by it.
was this really something that needed to be said en masse to your fanbase? This video is over 30 minutes long, so why did you feel you needed to give yourself even more work? If this was a more serious situation, this kind of poor decision-making would eventually net you a Darwin Award.
But yet I recognize the game as an eternal classic.
So, there you have it.
That sounded awfully snide after all that schmaltz.
My pick for number 1 is The Legend of Zelda.
Hold up! You're so insulting a Zelda game, you!
Hey, I just saw a Malon cosplayer at the convention center. I hear she's giving free rides.
I'm having a difficult time deciding who the unlikable prick here is. It's me, obviously.
Number 1 on this list is actually 2 Zelda games.
Oh, wonderful. Double the pretension means double
Because I
the
hate
pretension.
Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Ages, and Oracle of Seasons. Or, as I like to call them, Link's Awakening Capcom Edition.
I don't know what's worse, your line delivery or that fake box art.
Developed by Capcom and made off Link's Awakening's engine. Throughout both these games, I couldn't help but notice a few things like, hey, that song was from Link's Awakening. Hey, isn't that Lanmola's shadow from Link's Awakening? Hey, that was the warp sound effect from Link's Awakening.
If this tripe is going where I think it's going, by his logic, he'd hate Persona 4 for recycling from Persona 3.
That's right. These games lazily reused sprites and music from Link's Awakening, done in such a way that the old did not blend with the new.
Looks like somebody's been wearing their Game Boy Green nostalgia goggles again.
To me, that's inexcusable, because I know for sure that Capcom is able to make a Zelda game with more consistent graphics and sound. But wait. With all that talk about gameplay being superior to presentation...
What do I think of the game itself? His script is so stock. I don't even need to say this video is predictable because you've heard all of these lines before.
Manipulation of these games feels like a gimmick to me.
So he knows what gimmick means. Did the other personalities in your head help you write this?
The time travel mechanic in Majora's Mask contributed a sense of urgency and atmosphere to the whole game as the end of the world gets closer.
It's the end of the fucking world! Emote!
Interesting, and frankly, it feels like a poor man's version of the Dark World mechanic from Link to the Past. Using Link's Awakening's engine, the developers of the Oracle games did something that baffles me.
I'm baffled by how you don't sound baffled.
Increased the amount of invincibility frames you get. Let me ask you this. Why?
Because this game was specifically programmed to spite you.
Invincibility frames gave you a chance to react to different enemy patterns. In the Oracle games, there's a chance that you will take a ton of damage in a second because the game just simply doesn't give you enough time to react to enemy onslaughts.
Broken as that mechanic sounds, the image of you incompetently making Link bounce off enemies like a pinball is highly amusing.
Why couldn't they have just used the same invincibility rate? This
Dramatic pause.
is something you'd see in a fan hack of a video game. These are my most hated games that everyone likes because they sounded so good on paper, and yet when I played them it felt like I was playing watered down versions of Link's Awakening with poor presentation and poor gameplay.
I love how his clips of poor gameplay are the same puzzle all the time.
Time is a ton of work, but these games simply do not look polished. And for a game in the Legend of Zelda series, that is unacceptable.
Every Zelda game must be perfect or people will die. Or have a hissy fit of an unnecessarily long top 5 video, I don't know.
Are the games just trying to slam it in our faces that the games are worthy of the Zelda title because it has recognizable characters? Yeah, because reminding us all of Kepra Gebra is the best way to say—
Owls seem to just flock around cringeworthy moments now, don't they? Speaking of which—
Top 5. I'm the Autarch of Flame, and I'm going to kill that Noctowl!
To be continued, I guess? What is this self-indulgent crap?
In this second part, I'm going to talk about the games I feel people give a bit too much petty hate.
Oh,
or
you know all about
for
being
whatever
petty now,
reason,
wouldn't
despite
you?
having earned positive reviews. Let us begin. Kirby Canvas Curse is often ignored by Kirby fans, despite it ironically having a similar format to the regular Kirby games. The thing is, this game literally uses no buttons, controlling purely with the DS stylus. This results in you literally drawing paths for Kirby to ride.
Is it just me or am I watching an entirely different video? No, seriously, he almost sounds normal.
Why this would alienate purist fans due to its unconventional controls, but from a technical perspective, this game fascinates me due to how precise the mechanic is. The tight controls lead to some really neat scenarios, namely the difficult special courses, and this game's final battle, which follows the Kirby tradition of being genuinely enjoyable, artsy, and rather disturbing. Plus, there's a fast-paced drawing minigame which I fully admit to returning to on multiple occasions due to how challenging and addicting it is.
Okay, false alarm, he's still dramatically emphasizing certain words.
Content: Kirby Canvas Curse utilizes the DS to its fullest potential.
Fullest potential, freely, I highly doubt you know anything about the hardware capabilities of this console.
Until the release of Donkey Kong Country Returns in 2010, it had been 14 years since the last main series Donkey Kong Country game came out. In between then, various other Donkey
Did his voice just spontaneously get deeper?
varying degrees of success. One of these, Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, was loved by critics, though it seems to have faded into obscurity among fans.
If this is what you consider hated, I seriously wonder how many games you've actually played.
Towards this game because it doesn't play like any other game in this series, nor does it have any kind of familiar characters from the main series aside from DK himself.
Oh, come on. I highly doubt that people would actually go into angry rants over a difference of characters.
Yeah, I loved playing it too. The game uses the DK Bongo controller, where you hit the bongos and clap to perform actions. The game actually controls very smoothly considering the different method of play, and the gameplay is pretty damn addicting because
This damn game is so damn awesome, but this damn video isn't going to do a damn thing to convince people. Damn!
they're worth it in the end for the Kong battles, where you get into one-on-one fistfights with other evil Kongs. The presentation is excellent as well, with a few memorable songs and the single best graphics on the whole GameCube. Seriously, how did they animate all those hairs on DK's body?
I'm not sure if they did. That footage quality is shit.
Different DK adventure, but man was it fun.
Have I mentioned to you that you're trying too hard yet? Because you're trying too hard. Or should I say, trying too damn hard.
So many people overlook Pokemon's third generation despite all of its advances. No, you couldn't trade between the first two generations.
Yes, they're still the same format of 8 gym leaders, an Elite Four, and an increasingly predictable champion.
And they took away, so it's sad that a lot of people tend to look upon these games as the worst generation of Pokemon.
Maybe people think that's the worst, but Generation 1 is outdated and your childhood was a lie. Generation 5 had the gall to include an ice cream Pokemon, and Generation 6 has to suck because it ruined my beloved Mewtwo.
Possibilities in new Pokemon, such as Castform's ability to change type and appearance in different weather conditions. Then they added double battles, which by itself cemented Pokemon as a recognized competitive video game series.
And brought forth a legion of people taking a game about monsters in your pocket way too seriously.
This generation. Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald were all great.
Your writing, however, is juvenile.
Story, the sheer variety in the locations was just so cool.
There's so much variety that I decided to show only one standout location.
With Colosseum especially having a strange kind of charm to it. If only because it included older generation Pokemon that could be traded to the Game Boy games. Also, Fire Red and Leaf Green, though I'm not a fan of these games myself.
Why not? Afraid of causing a little more controversy? Come on, you included that fat Nintendo fanboy, and suddenly you're not up to pushing the envelope.
Overall, I feel it all still adds up to the same level of Pokemon quality.
Same level? What are you comparing it to begin with?
I'll fully admit, for newer Zelda players, Zelda II is a game that's tough to access. It's the most different...
Hello, mic quality shift.
Undoubtedly the toughest, but it doesn't make it a bad game.
These mic pops.
This game more than the original Legend of Zelda.
Flame armor? Well, my eyes were burning thanks to how tough that was to read.
From the top-down gameplay of the other 2D Zelda games. However, this makes sense because the Zelda series hadn't developed a full-on formula for itself yet. The difficulty in this game was completely real. The game was tough, but you could
I'm disappointed. After how awful that first top 5 was, this is just depthless and boring. Just me and that droning voice.
Link glitch, and overall I loved fighting enemies that were as big as Link was head-on.
Why? Back up your opinions with facts, not more opinions.
Exploration. Finding certain items required that you go into caves, which certainly came a long way from the tiny wizard caves in the original game.
The first game had trials outside dungeons too, moron.
Some of the caves and palaces in this game were challenges even for this game.
This top 5 is a challenge.
A maze full of some of the strongest foes in the game, and the Great Palace is such a huge challenge.
Tell us, Autark, is this game a challenge?
The game is at this palace. So if you're into a challenge but
Stop saying challenge!
Zelda 2 is a great game for you. It's a classic game, but I find it's unfairly picked on for being the odd one out in the series. Luigi's Mansion.
Good, no pointless fanboy skit. Let's get this done with.
Honestly confused as to what people even expected from it. When people asked for a game starring Luigi, did they want a platformer starring him? Well, that would be redundant because one, it would be like playing a Mario game except with a different sprite and controls.
By that logic, Super Princess Peach should have just been a sprite swap of Mario World.
Personally, I'm waiting for Paper Luigi, but that's beside the point. Luigi's Mansion was just so enjoyable.
Well, that adds more credence to my robot theory. Your voice chip seems to have malfunctioned.
This is through creative means. That is an awesome concept if I ever saw one.
Certainly more awesome than that game with that six-armed man whose first boss enemy is the size of a planet.
Atmosphere, with special mention going to the blackout scene.
Again, showing
Game
only
had so
one
many
example.
hard mode and multiple ending outcomes. The game was kind of short though, and the story was more of an excuse plot.
Oh, because Super Mario is such a complex affair. I remember that game where the villain's family ruled in a magical basin high above a volcano, only to have a plumber and his sacred water pump rocket them down from the heavens after their hubris got the best of them. Shakespearean.
This top 5. And with that, this double top 5 has come to a close.
Thank me!
Flame, and I'm gonna end this review on a lighter note. Next episode is Top 10 Nostalgic Animated Shows.
Whatever the hell it is, it can't be nearly as grueling to watch as this was. Hades out.